So welcome to Unleashing Health with Dr. Joel Kahn. We've got a very exciting, very jam-packed session for you. You know, I've had a couple of health crises. I've been in the tech industry. I've been where you are. And one of the most important things that we all are facing today is actually stress. So what I thought we could do before we dive into a wonderful session with one of my favorite docs, Dr. Joel Kahn, is to give you a chance to wake up. I know it's noon and it's you know, sort of lunchtime, sort of energy starts to dissipate. So the first thing we're going to do as we get started today is we're going to do a feel it, move it with Sonam. Right after that, we're going to have our conversation with Dr. Joel. It's going to be about 20 minutes of questions followed by 10 minutes of Q&A session. One of the things that I recommend is as we are chatting, questions come up, start posting them. Don't wait till the end. That way we get a sense of what your questions are. And if possible, I can start to incorporate those into my own conversation with Dr. Joel as well. So don't be shy. We are here for you. So make sure your questions get answered today. If it turns out that you have a lot more questions after, I've got my email address right up here. You can connect with me at rena@freemeals.org, or there's also a LinkedIn link that I've put in there if you do need to reach out to me after this session. So we're going to do this Q&A, then we're going to do a little bit about what Free Meals is, what I am doing, our nonprofit, which is all about feeding families that are desperately in need. And then we're going to end today with a Zen breath with Sharmila. All right, jam pack, let's get started. Sonam.
Hi there.
Stop here. Let's get you pinned.
Sounds good. Hello, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started.
So here's what we're going to do before Sonam starts. I want to mention to you something very important. You know, we all start our day with caffeine. It's acidic, it brings down immunity, and it's actually a downer long term. So one of the things I want you to consider during these crazy COVID days is to start your morning in an alkaline way. And what's a better alkaline way than a nice warm glass of water and jumping up and down and dancing? Now, Sonam is this superpower of a dance maestro. And what she's going to do is she's going to show us just a 30-second routine. It's a simple routine. And then we're all going to follow. Now, what I want you all to do, though, is I want you to stand up. So everybody stand up. Everybody. All right. Okay, so let's get started. All right, I'm gonna press play. And step one, we're gonna watch Sonam, and if you can, follow her, and then after that, she's gonna show us exactly what to do. 1, 2, 3, go. All right, sorry about that. Sorry, Sonam. I'm gonna start again, love. All right, 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is Sonam's gonna show us exactly what to do one step at a time. All right, Sonam, go.
Yes, let's do it. So everybody turn to your left or right, whatever's easy, but I normally go this way. We're gonna stick our left hand out, our right hand up, and we're gonna lift our leg up, 2, 3, 4. Very simple, 2, 3, 4. Then we're gonna go to the sides. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. How's everyone doing so far? Good? Then we're gonna jump up, 2, 3, 4. And then put our hands up like this. Just sort of move in the front, turn, move in the front, turn. Exactly, I can see some of you doing it. It's awesome. Then we're gonna go back to this. Simple step. Like this. And lastly, we're going to end with my favorite move, which is the disco. There you go. That's the move.
All right, well, let's do it one more time. Is everybody ready? Let's follow Sonam. 1, 2, 3, go. Sonam, thank you so much
You're welcome.
for getting us all up, and we really appreciate you joining. And we are going to now transition over to Dr. Joel. So Dr. Joel is in the house. How do I unpin? That's interesting. It's not letting me.
I'll do it, Rina.
Thank you, Mamta.
Okay.
There we go. All right. Welcome, Dr. Joel Kahn is in the house.
Just stopped dancing a second ago.
Exactly. I'm going to go ahead and share our presentation here. So let's get started. So can everyone see me and Joel at the same time? Mamta?
They'll have to go to the gallery view.
Your gallery view, exactly. So if everyone could just go to your gallery view that way. I'm going to quickly do an intro for Dr. Joel. As I mentioned, he is one of my favorite docs. He is out of Michigan. He's a practicing cardiologist, a clinical professor, super brilliant. He's known as America's healthy heart doc. He's also America's vegan doc, but there's a lot of science that he's going to talk about today in terms of health and wellness. He was the first physician in the world to certify in the metabolic cardiology, as well as he's founded the Kahn Center for Cardiac Longevity in Michigan. He's authored tons of publications, written a ton of books, and has appeared in every show that you've probably watched, from Dr. Phil to Doctor's Show to Dr. Oz, Larry King Now, Joe Rogan. He's also extremely popular out here in Silicon Valley. He's seen presenting at Google. He's done that in person when we were still meeting in person. And he serves as the medical director of the largest plant support group in the US. So welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get started. The first question, Dr. Joel, is can heart disease be reversed? And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can focus on Dr. Joel. Can heart disease be reversed?
Yes, next question, please. Okay, I'll go a little deeper on the answer.
Well, the thing is, we have a lot of doctors who tell us, here's your medication, go home.
Right.
You're saying it can be reversed. Let's get into specifics. What are you reversing? Blood pressure, cholesterol?
Two quick comments. My last patient I saw before I logged on to this webinar and conversation, 58-year-old woman struggling with type 2 diabetes for the past 3 years, rail thin, adopting a plant-based diet, came to see me, a cardiologist, because she said, last week I asked my endocrinologist, is there a diet I should follow? I'm trying to reverse my diabetes. And he said, I don't know anything about nutrition and diet. Find somebody else. That's the state of medicine in 2020, sadly. Secondly, today is Dr. Dean Ornish's 67th birthday. So this is a wonderful time to be asked that question. He lives in Sausalito, not far from where some of you all live, if you're in Silicon Valley. Very succinctly, heart disease was not common in the United States when we're talking about heart attack, stroke, and of course there wasn't bypass or stent until after World War II. Big rise in heart attacks because of diet changes, job changes, sedentary, smoking. The government put a lot of money into research. They discovered real quickly what causes heart disease is genetic, smoking, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and some important but not as well-known factors like lipoprotein a. And we began the pharmaceutical and the surgical and the stent approach. And again, you're near Mountain View, California, some of you, where stents were sort of originated in balloon treatments, place I spent a lot of time in during my training. Some pioneers, however, said, hey, if smoking, if high-fat American diets, if sedentary lifestyle and stress cause heart disease, what if we reverse that? What if we tell people, quit smoking, eat a different plant-strong diet, get fitness, lose weight, and manage stress, even yoga? And nobody was more famous in constructing a real science study than Dr. Dean Ornish in Sausalito, University of California, San Francisco. And in 1990, and a little later in a larger follow-up in 1998, he proved scientifically, without question, clogged arteries can begin to reverse. Similarly, with the same program, is called the Ornish Lifestyle Medical Program. Type 2 diabetes can often begin to reverse. Even type 1 diabetes can improve, but you're not going to be off insulin at the present time. High blood pressure can begin to improve without medication. High cholesterol can. We can extend that list now to pre-Alzheimer's dementia, not Alzheimer's, pre. It's called mild cognitive impairment, has now been shown to improve with a similar program. You need to be eating blueberries and green arugula and red bell peppers and purple eggplants and white cauliflowers, beautiful plant-based colors. And we can extend it out to autoimmune diseases, some cases of Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, psoriasis. So can heart disease be reversed? Yes, but the medical model waits till you're really sick. My model is find the disease 20 years before other cardiologists find it and never let it become a disease. And that's why age 40, age 45, age 35 is a great time to really drill down on your risk, which you can assess just by asking some of the questions. Am I hitting the gym or walking or standing or dancing? Am I eating plant-strong diets? And am I managing my stress with breathing, yoga, meditation? But you can do amazingly advanced blood work, even genetics, that will predict the future very accurately.
Let's talk about that, Dr. Joel. So hopefully we've convinced everybody that, you know, you do not have to assume that you have heart disease for life. You absolutely can reverse it. Now, one of the things you mentioned is if you catch it early enough, right? It's always about how quickly can you catch and start to alter your lifestyle. Dr. Joel, give us your favorite tests, and there's some cool new stuff out there, and what are the numbers we're looking for?
Okay, you know, one aspect is lab work. Get any cholesterol test, but there's something called an advanced cholesterol panel. It's LDL particle size, particle number. You want to know inflammation. You want to check your high sensitivity C-reactive protein. I want to know something about your blood sugar, so I get a hemoglobin A1C and other tests. And you definitely want to check for a genetic cholesterol called lipoprotein little a, which affects 90 million Americans, and doctors don't check it, even though it's a $30 blood test. And so you want to do a little deeper dive on lab work. And then even more important, you know, women are familiar with a mammogram to screen for an unsuspected mass. Everybody's familiar with colonoscopy to screen for a polyp. There is the similar test for the heart, but nobody orders it. It's called a heart artery calcium CT scan. It was developed at the University of California, San Francisco 25 years ago. You can go to Mill Valley, you can go to UCSF, you can go to any medium or large hospital in the United States. $100, 10 seconds, hold your breath, go home, no exercise, no injection. You get a CT of your heart arteries, you want to be a 0. I'll tell you at age 61, I'm a 0 as of 2 months ago. Again, I've done it about every 10 years. And if that comes back full of calcified heart arteries, we're finding it before the heart attack to bypass the stent. We want an intensive reversal program. So it's missing from the American medical model to do a few extra labs and to do this inexpensive self-pay CT scan. I tell people it's like texting with your seatbelt off and your feet out the window not to have had a calcium heart CT scan by about age 45. You're rolling the dice.
How often should these tests be done, Dr. Joel? That's one of the questions that just came in.
If we're talking a genetic blood test like lipoprotein little a, probably once in your life if you're normal. If you're very high, you might get into a new research study that I'm participating in with a Novartis pharmaceutical agent. You know, your cholesterol, your inflammation panel, do it once, but maybe once a year. The CT scan, if it's very abnormal, I don't even repeat it. I learned what I need to learn. If somebody's a 0, I might wait 10 years. That's what I do for my own health. Every 10 years, I repeat it. So it's very low dose radiation. It's very inexpensive.
Great. All right. Well, let's get on to the next important topic, which is what are the pillars that drive disease reversal. And let's start first with diet, Dr. Joel. You and I have talked so many times about the fact that there's a scientifically proven diet. And I know if I didn't stop you, you'd probably spend the next 2 hours talking about it. So in less than 3 minutes, what is the right diet? Like, what should breakfast look like? What should lunch look like? What should dinner look like? And yes, rainbow colored vegetables is important. But how do we balance that in this real world that we live in?
You know, as you mentioned, I've been up to Googleplex and I've debated, sometimes kind, sometimes ugly. I've been on the doctor show that's always been ugly food debates. You would actually think that the science was confusing because there's a very, very noisy group, sometimes MDs, sometimes health coaches, exercise physiologists. It's very popular to write books that challenge the convention. Well, why do we talk about a food plate at Harvard School of Public Health, your alma mater, Rena, that a food plate, this is what Harvard recommends, quarter is fruits, whole fruits, quarter is vegetables, a quarter is whole grains, and a quarter is healthy proteins like beans, peas, lentils, never bacon, pepperoni, and sausage. Could be small amounts of high quality red meat, salmon, or fowl, but very small amounts, which you can translate as a Mediterranean diet, which you can alter as a brain diet and call it the mind diet. Harvard School of Public Health, copied by the Australian Health Advisory in 2019, copied by the Canadian Health Advisory, and literally yesterday evening, our USDA published its advisory committee, 835 pages on nutrition. They came out very strong. Whole food, plant-forward diets, low in added sugar, you got to remember that, low in added saturated fat. Saturated fats, the butter, the lard, maybe the ghee, sorry to offend anybody, the cheese, the marbled meats dripping, the hamburger dripping, and certainly the bacon. So there actually is tremendous consensus. Now, I know there's a question. There was developed a low-carb, high-fat, ketogenic diet for children with epilepsy and over the last 80, 90 years. Well described in the literature to help people with epilepsy some of the time and have side effects in these children, in these teenagers. It got adopted, and we don't know why. Is it Halle Berry? Was it Hugh Jackman? Was it LeBron James? You know, you can effectively lose weight. Robert Atkins showed us that with a low-carb, high-fat diet. But are you furthering your health? There's very limited data. It may stabilize diabetes for a year or two. There's no cardiovascular data. Very concerning that about 30% of people doing a low-carb ketogenic diet, their cholesterol goes wildly high. And there are 10 published studies involving more than 1 million people that raise the question, do you die earlier on a long-term low-carb ketogenic diet? Low-carb ketogenic diet is not advised by the new USDA advisory. It's not advised by the Harvard School of Public Health. And I do not advise it as a long-term diet. You want to do it for a week to fit into a wedding dress or a tuxedo. You want to do it the way my favorite nutrition scientist, Dr. Walter Longo, has it, fasting, mimicking plant-based diet in a box called Prolon, go for it. But to do it month after month after month, meat, butter, grease to drive your fats up is not a advised diet by 99% of health authorities. But it's a good way to write a book if you want to be popular.
Yep, you're not a big fan of throwing butter in your coffee. I know that.
I like the man that came up with the idea. He's a brilliant marketer, but he 10 years later has yet to publish a study, and he never will. He's just got a big business, and
exactly.
people fall for fads because there's such confusion amongst the medical, the medical professionals, like I just mentioned with my patient.
So we have several questions on intermittent fasting, which is something I do.
Right.
And I've tested and played around with. So I'm going to summarize a series of questions. So what do you think about intermittent fasting, specifically around health, heart health?
Right.
What do you think of the 16-8 model and any guidelines, especially men versus women, around fasting?
Yeah. So, we learned in the medical community, scientific community about 25 years ago, if you study yeast, earthworm mice, and you feed them less food, or you feed them some days yes, some days no, they actually appeared healthier and they live longer. That's been a uniform scientific observation. It's all the way up to some great apes that have been studied in Wisconsin and in Washington, D.C. We believe, based on science, humans have the same ability to respond to reduced calories or no calories. It's that pathway called autophagy, and we generally never unlock that magical regenerative pathway because we eat 3 meals a day. So that has led to 2 or 3 different options. What's called time-restricted eating. I'll eat in an 8-hour window. I'll eat in a 10-hour window. Some people, challenge it all the way to a 6-hour window, and I won't eat. I'll drink liquid 18 hours. There's good science to suggest it reduces your calories, may help with weight loss and inflammation. It's actually not fasting. It's time-restricted eating. Fasting technically is defined as the body's response after 30 hours of low calorie or no calorie, depleting the glycogen in your liver. There's the every other day approach, and there's some very good published science by credible people, Dr. Virati and others, that show if your goal is to lose weight and inflammation, and you can actually have the willpower to eat every other day. It turns out the day you eat, people don't eat 3 times as much. They eat a little bit more than an average day. It's just tough. That's discipline. Then there's Dr. Longo, who came up. Why don't we torture people for 5 days a month and let them enjoy healthy Mediterranean food 25 days a month? That's the fasting mimicking diet. His brilliance, the world's leading nutrition expert, said, I can still feed people 800 calories a day if it's low sugar, low protein, and they'll get the response of a 5-day water fast without the pain of a 5-day water fast. There's been 3 publications in the last 2 weeks with the fasting mimicking diet from University of Southern California in breast cancer patients. It is phenomenal. It's all published, peer-reviewed, Nature, one of the best journals in the world. Dr. Longo is setting a trend. Those are kind of the options out there. I personally eat in a 10-hour window. I have a 14-hour break, and I use Prolon fasting mimicking diet about every 2 months for 5 days, and I enjoy wonderful food for 55 of 60 days.
Dr. Joel, I was just about to ask you, tell us about your Prolon experience. And for those of you interested, I did a series of videos because I actually did the Prolon diet as well.
Right.
And I recorded the videos kind of day 1, day 2. It's not easy, but it's doable. And
I said torture.
Yeah.
800 calories a day, no tequila is a tough diet for a lot of people. But, you have science behind you, and it's the easiest thing. It's a box you open, and 5 days of food is sitting for you. There are nuts, so it's not appropriate for nut allergic people. But, I have been completely plant-based for 43 years. I'm 61, so 18 years I messed up, and my undergrad days in Ann Arbor quickly made me vegan. It's been a healthy vegan, and I'm on no medicine and have no health problems, knock on wood. I do wear my seatbelt. I take nothing for granted, and I don't text when I drive. But I did add on Prolon about 3.5 years ago, and I learned of it, and I was carrying a few extra pounds, and woof, it was the most effective thing I've ever seen. More important than me, I've used it in hundreds and hundreds of patients. And if there's inflammation, if there's, they stalled in their weight loss. They've never tried plant-based. They've never tried non-GMO. They've never tried gluten-free. It's so easy to kind of get a new path, a kickstart using the 5-day program. So I'm a big fan of it. And the science keeps multiplying. It's mind-blowing. The same diet I'm doing is helping breast cancer chemotherapy patients around the world now that the published data is coming out.
There's a question, do we need to follow breakfast, lunch, and dinner model, or can we eat whenever we feel hungry? And this, again, I think there's always a lot of confusion around intermittent fasting. Yeah. Could I eat like 5 hours at night versus eating 5 hours in the morning? Right. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and we don't know everything. There's been a classic statement, eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. Small meal, not too late. And we're learning more and more not too late, although that conflicts with our pre-COVID lifestyle of very often an elegant dinner late at night with wine and the whole shebang. That's probably not the healthiest for your metabolism. There is also debate, do you have to eat breakfast? I, for years, have been a coffee or tea, to credit Rena, lunch, dinner, and skip breakfast. But there is a sizable body of data that it's stressful on the body to skip breakfast. Dr. Longo eats a small breakfast, a smaller lunch, and a medium-sized dinner, as an example, when I've been with him, and as he writes in his book, The Longevity Diet. I don't know that you have to set a rule that's, if you feel good skipping breakfast and you're fine with lunch and dinner and your general health parameters are fine, I don't see any reason to shake that up. If you're, hangry and not performing well at 10 a.m., you might add back, a smoothie, a bowl of oatmeal, something that has omega-3 with hemp or flax or chia, which we're always struggling to get enough omega-3.
I think the biggest advice for everyone from what Dr. Joel just said to underscore is listen to your body. Don't follow fat. Someone says breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It's not the scientific truth when it comes to you. So what I've learned again is there are people that are sort of body types where they wake up hungry and they need to eat. And there's others who can go all the way till noon and not want to eat. And so to force someone who doesn't like to eat till noon to have breakfast doesn't make sense. And so the answer to the question that was asked, I think, is listen to your body. Your body will tell you when it's ready for nutrition. I think one of the challenges is we overeat, Dr. Joel, because we're trying to listen to all these people instead of listening to our body. All right, next section is on supplements. There's a question on supplements, and it's also part of our section here, which is too many supplements. Everyone's out to sell us something. First question, food versus something in a bottle, Dr. Joel. What do you think?
Sure. I mean, certainly base of the pyramid is whole foods, largely or exclusively plant-based, organic if you can find and prefer. There was a study out this week, 80% of store-bought hummus that was just routine, conventional, had a fairly high amounts of glyphosate in it. So that's just another shocker for all of us. And the organic brands they tested were much, much lower. But that's the base. The reality is the American government reported in 1933 that the vast majority of Americans have some nutritional deficiency. Well, if you see me in my office, I'm drawing more nutrition labs than I'm drawing cholesterol labs. I want to know your minerals, your chromium, your calcium, your magnesium, your manganese, your selenium. These are all actually available and covered by insurance. There's a code for nutrient deficiency. Everybody has some. Vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin B. I'm not saying they're standard, but a functional medicine doc will do it, a Quest Lab. I send to Quest Lab. They're all available. There's widespread nutritional deficiencies. So, you don't know your vitamin D level, your omega-3 level, your chromium level. Therefore, I do use supplements, but I don't start them till the labs come back generally. And the prevalence of low vitamin D, B12, not very common, but it's a risk in a total plant-based eater. Chromium is my new one. It's very important in blood sugar and blood cholesterol control, new in sense of drawing it, and widespread deficiency. So again, coenzyme Q10, is it just expensive urine? There's a study in Sweden. If you're 70, healthy and older, you live longer if you take CoQ10, randomized double-blind study. Congestive heart failure, CoQ10, randomized double-blind study. So I am absolutely certain, and the science says it, B-complex vitamins have been associated with a lower risk of early death in life. They drop the risk of stroke and lower your homocysteine. But do you need 40? And I mean, we can talk about anti-aging vitamins from resveratrol to NMN to, nicotinamide riboside and NAD plus kind of approach and all the other Silicon Valley approaches right now to anti-aging. That's tough to know. It's a fascinating field, but I think Dr. Longo says, take a good quality multivitamin every other day. It's kind of a crazy recommendation. This is the world's leading nutritional scientist in his book, Longevity Diet. But it's recognizing that even a healthy diet can have pockets and you might cover the bases. So
what about just for heart? I know I've heard you share in the past, like if you've got blood pressure, cholesterol, you're over 50, here's kind of the top 4 or 5. What are they?
Yeah, it'd probably be magnesium before bed, helps you sleep, helps with blood pressure, PMS, PVCs, migraines. Magnesium as a powder, magnesium as a capsule. You can take an Epsom salt bath at night if you're really tense and anxious. I put CoQ10 on the list. From age 40 on, you make less and less of this important antioxidant. I always have said a probiotic, we still need better science. I use a brand called Seed out of LA, seed.org. I love them. I'm not an owner. Their science is pretty profound. And if I had to add one more, it'd probably be vitamin D. But just get your blood checked to see where you're at. I mean, I love sun. even here in Michigan in the summer only, but I still take vitamin D, but I check my levels.
I think that's, again, the big takeaway I would say to everyone that's listening in, either live or on the recording, is get tested. It's covered. There's absolutely no reason. And we're going to get to the COVID piece next. But specifically around the COVID piece, I think it's so critical, more than ever before, to get tested to know where your levels are.
Agree.
Because we are hearing that there are certain deficiencies that are creating things like the cytokine storms that we all need to be wary of. All right, so we've talked about the diet, the supplements. Let's talk about stress management. Like we weren't stressed enough, now we've got the pandemic, and we've got the fear of dying, and we're all stuck at home with family members that we used to love but are not so sure anymore about. Dr. Joel, how much is stress related to heart disease? Let's start with that. What is the science there?
I'm proud to say I like my wife more during COVID because I actually am spending more time with a nice person. But not everybody I know is saying that. I talk to all my patients about that. Stress is a big deal in the corporate world. It's gotten much more with our disrupted. I had a patient today, literally big turnaround, bankruptcy businessman, and his life's falling apart because he's got 4 kids at home while he's trying to do work and Zoom calls, and and I really got to work with him. And so I mean, stress matters. Stress raises cortisol, which raises your blood sugar, inflammation, blood pressure. You want to do simple things first. Most important thing for stress: sleep, 7 hours, deep sleep. Get an Aura ring, maybe. Take magnesium. Take maybe 0.3 milligrams of melatonin. Maybe take full spectrum hemp oil before bed. Wear blue light blocking glasses. Dark room, cool room, white noise, eye mask. Do what you need to do to sleep, and keep trying till you find something other than Benadryl and Klonopin that'll work. You don't want to get down that path. I was wearing a Whoop band, one of the measurement bands, till recently, and they have a great blog, the 100 Best Sleepers in Whoop, and there are 45 tips, and they were all the ones I just ran through. Don't drink coffee, don't drink wine an hour before bed, don't eat a big meal right before bed. It takes a lot of work. Some people use a weighted blanket, essential oil. I mean, it's obviously something I talk to patients a lot to, because until they sleep well, they're stressed and their health isn't good. A breathing technique. I'm a big fan of something called 478 breathing. I got it backwards. It's Dr. Andrew Weil popularized. You can just do the traditional Indian alternate nose breathing. In through one side, hold it.
That's right.
Breathe out the other side, and you alternate. It actually sets your sympathetic and parasympathetic system more balanced. But 478 breathing is take 75 seconds. You're about to go on a Zoom call with your CEO. You breathe in through your nose for 4 kind of slow seconds. You hold it for 7, and you breathe out through your mouth for 8 seconds. You do it 4 times. Or pranayama breathing, yoga. These are all practices. There are herbs, theanine. I love ashwagandha or mixes with ashwagandha and theanine. So these are called kind of adaptogenic herbs. A nice, calming tea, a chamomile tea, a lavender tea. Many tips to keep you off of Xanax and other, kind of hooks you don't want to get on.
Absolutely. All right. We've got some questions. By the way, one of the questions that I have is, any specific app? I know there's a lot of apps. Yeah. Calm's the big one that's been, right. There's like 100 apps these days. Do those work? Do they help?
Yeah, if somebody's technology-based, the ones everybody hears about are Headspace, Calm. Sam Harris has one, I blank on the name, 10% Happier with the news reporter. Again, I'm blanking on his name. I listened to his podcast. Great people. If you want to step it up some, there's a company, I don't think they're in Silicon Valley. They've been around 40 years, called HeartMath. One word, HeartMath. And you can buy an app and a piece that plugs in your phone and plugs on your ear. And it's a breathing technique with feedback by colors and noise, but it's actually monitoring your skin temperature, your skin moisture, your heart rate, and it's giving feedback that is more science-based. They have about 100 publications in PTSD and school performance and anxiety. So HeartMath doesn't, because you got to buy something, you have to buy the cable. But the other programs now are mainly per month anyways. I like HeartMath a lot. You can also install it on your laptop and, use a fancier version, but it's called Inner Balance is the name of the program that HeartMath has.
HeartMath is fantastic. There's incredible science. I love those guys. All right, well, let's go into a couple of Q&A before we go into COVID. So one of the questions is low HDL. If someone has low HDL, good cholesterol, what foods do you recommend?
We probably should stop measuring HDL. I say that honestly. In the 1960s, there was a simple equation. Low HDL bad, high HDL good. You'll never have a heart attack if a high HDL. That has totally been redone because too many people have a high HDL and have heart disease and get a heart attack. It's actually more common in women. Your HDL is 116. We used to pat them on the back when we could touch patients and say, amazing, now we're worried about it. And you can read about that. So, however, with what you said, actually pomegranates are probably the best recommendation. Exercise can improve the level of HDL. I hate to say it, a good glass of Cabernet from Napa might be able to improve HDL. But pomegranate seeds or pomegranate unsweetened juice in studies have been shown make your HDL more active, may raise your HDL. There's studies from Israel, if you have some carotid disease and you regularly drink 8 ounces of unsweetened pomegranate juice a day, you can help make the plaque reverse, kind of like the first question we had. So that's what I would recommend.
Fantastic. And, right next to that question is, how do we take control of our health when the current doctor advises you to wait? Related to some of the tests discussed, calcification test, nutrition levels test.
Well, the basics of health aren't always a test. 2 studies in 2014 from Sweden and the Netherlands asked the question, we have 40,000 healthy people, 20 years later, some are going to have a heart attack. What are the habits that predict never having a heart attack? And it turned out there were 5 habits that if you did regularly, your risk of a heart attack was 85% less. And it wasn't a blood test. It was 30 minutes of fitness a day, don't smoke, 5 or more servings of fruit and vegetables a day, 7 hours of sleep, and my favorite, a glass of alcohol a day. This came out of, many other parameters. So 85% reduction in heart attack from 5 simple lifestyle factors is not chump change. Now, with advanced blood work, CT scans, I think we can do better than that. And, I can't guarantee everybody 85%, but that's an example of science. 3 weeks ago, a study was published, made headlines. Can you prevent Alzheimer's disease if you're healthy now? The answer was 60% reduction over 20 years in Chicago. Exact same list, except they added mind games. If you regularly learned a new language or read or stayed mentally engaged. Oddly, the glass of alcohol a day showed up as a preventive habit for Alzheimer's, which surprised a lot of people, but it's actually been consistent for that disease too.
So we have a bunch of questions around a plant-based diet. I'm going to summarize them and then let you have at it. So the first is, how can we get enough B vitamins, zinc from plant-based diet? There's another one around protein. There's, how do we make sure we get enough protein from a plant-based diet? And okay. They kind of
so how do you know you get enough B12, zinc, vitamin D? Again, you could go to your doctor and say, measure my blood levels of B12, zinc, vitamin D. There is a blood test for omega-3. It's available. It's called the Omega Check. I really urge you. Quest does it, LabCorp. That's an important one for everybody unless you're eating salmon 5 days a week or you're doing 3 tablespoons of flaxseed every day or something. But I would check it. So either get the test. I take a multivitamin for vegans. It's called Complement Plus. I talked about it on the Joe Rogan show a couple of years ago. I got a little notoriety for that because they don't believe that any diet can be good. I took 1 pill and said, there's my supplements. But it has all the omega-3, B12, vitamin D, selenium, zinc, iodine, and magnesium that you could possibly be missing on a plant-based diet. It's philosophically, some people, again, mark down a diet that is stronger with a supplement. The reality is meat eaters and general public eaters don't get those blood tests. They've got deficiencies left and right too, and they have a higher risk of chronic disease. So I don't apologize for, creating a solution to what is, theoretically a real problem. We're all struggling in any diet you're taking to really fill all mineral and vitamin needs in the body. And then the answer about protein, I was hoping that would come up. I saw it in the chat section. Such an interesting topic. I'll be very concise. Dr. Longo, I hate to keep going back to him, but his published science is brilliant, actually suggests not the typical 0.8 grams per kilogram body weight of protein to sustain. He recommends half that dose to your 70 years old, 0.4, because animal protein can trigger pathways that lead to faster aging and potentially serious diseases like cancer. So there are intelligent people there that aren't caught up in the more chicken, more tilapia in a world of gym and CrossFit. And I honor that. Now, in the studies he's done, that isn't true of plant protein. More plant protein doesn't expose the risk to excessive aging or increased risk of disease. It's less. And you're getting your protein from seeds and nuts and beans and lentils and peas and leafy greens. Chlorella, a magic little green tablet, is 64% protein plus omega-3 plus vitamin K2 plus 38 other minerals and nutrients. I like taking a handful of chlorella. Weird little habit. But just this week, as timely as it is, and you go look it up, you'll see the headlines, a study from Europe with 415,000 people indicated higher animal protein, higher risk of early death,
Yes.
higher plant protein, no increased risk of early death. And by substituting small amounts of animal protein for small amounts of plant protein, make a bean chili, not a beef chili. That's all you got to do. Eat a bean burger, not a beef burger. You can substantially, predictive model of nutritional epidemiology, lower your risk. So I do not perseverate. I'm more worried about getting enough omega-3. So I've got 2-3 tablespoons of hemp hearts or ground flaxseed on my food every day. I never count my protein intake, and there just isn't. There's vitamin D deficiency and magnesium and selenium and chromium. There is no protein deficiency unless you're just eating, tater tots and calling that a vegan diet.
Exactly. I think it's all about how much nutrition you're getting from that rainbow diet. And for a lot of vegans, I think we end up, let's talk South Asians for a while, because there's a question on that. And I know we're 1 minute over Dr. Joel's allotted time. So we're going to go over, because I want to make sure that all your questions are answered. So really quickly, kind of rapid fire, are South Asians at a higher risk of silent heart attacks, or does it just seem like that?
Silent and clinical and early death.
And why is that?
Yeah, so there's theories. One is there is genetically more commonly a low HDL. And even though what I just said kind of beat that up, it is true. There's this characteristic blood profile in South Asians, low HDL, high triglycerides, sometimes blood sugars up. That's called the Metabolic Syndrome, which predicts future heart disease, diabetes, and early death. So that's very common. That little pot belly in a otherwise small and not overweight individual, which people of all ethnicities can have, but it's a very characteristic, body type. Number two, I'm not a fan of ghee and paneer when I go to Sikh temples and Hindu temples and give a health lecture and they try and feed me. I mean, take me over. I don't even know. I can't even eat the dessert. I mean, give me, aloo gobi or something that isn't totally dripping. It's a plant strong diet. Still, obviously, could be some chicken and fish, but it's not a healthier fat diet. I'm not seeing avocado sliced or walnuts or extra virgin olive oil in moderation. Exercise, of course, there's great South Asian athletes, but is it built in the culture widespread? Smoking, the typical things. Lipoprotein A, that genetic cholesterol, is as common in India as it is in the United States. Okay. Nobody's testing it in either continent. So, whole food plant-based diets of a naturally low-fat, Ornish, Pritikin style are just absolutely excellent. And put all the spices on. That's the best part. Curry powder and turmeric and coriander and all. That's what you want to use to flavor your food, because that stuff is naturally anti-inflammatory.
quick question. Does it have to be wine or can it be whiskey?
What kind of whiskey? Here's a little clue. I'll make you laugh. There's something called the Jack Daniel's COVID test. Open a bottle of Jack Daniel's. If you can smell it, you don't have COVID. Then take an ounce and drink it. If you can taste it, you definitely don't have COVID. Okay, that's just for humor.
No, it's not a real.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of Jack Daniel's. It actually, in most of these studies, it's alcohol, but it's 1 ounce of alcohol equals a 5-ounce glass of wine equals an 8-ounce beer. That's how the studies, measure it. There is unique aspects to red wine with resveratrol and certain wines from Sardinia and certain wines from a region of France called Mataran that may be the healthiest of wines in the world, Pinot Noir. Some people think that, I'm not a fan of high sugar wines that are expensive, the Caymus, the Plump Jack, the Joseph Phelps Insignia. They're big ticket items, but there's a process that leaves a lot of sugar in the wine. I like really old school, rustic, no sugar wines, which is basically all the wine from France, Italy, Spain, except for a few jacked up, ports and such. Not a fan of adding sugar into, it is a processed, grape, but there are very low sugar wines that are fun to have and just take a little habit on the palate.
Awesome. All right. So we still have lots of pending questions, and I'm going to end now because it's 12:50. I'm going to ask you a final question, and then we're going to go into a few other things. But for those of you who still have some questions that you've asked, for example, what to watch out for in your 30s, and should we take a probiotic every day, and the right amount of protein, I know we're not supposed to say this, but you can always reach out to Dr. Joel. He's also part of so I have a nonprofit, healcircle.org, and Dr. Joel is one of the kindest docs who's made himself available in one of our circles. So you can join the Heart Health Circle if you want to get those questions answered, or maybe Mamta will schedule a part 2 with Dr. Joel. But the last question is, how do you find a good cardiologist? And I know this is one of the hardest things because not every cardiologist thinks like you, Dr. Joel. How do you know if they're doing more than just a standard treatment? And how do you then advocate the wrong doctor for the right tests?
Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of cardiologists because we theoretically shouldn't need 85% of them. A massive industry that largely would go away with Dr. Ornish's program. Happy birthday, 30 years ago. And I'm part of the system. I've trained at universities and practiced stents and heart attacks, but it's largely, we're treating failures of the medical system and failures of providing food and lifestyle. I mean, it's a long answer. There's way too much testing. There's a wrong kind of testing. I'm a courtroom expert. I've read charts from every state in the United States thousands of times. It's very hard. Get a second opinion. That's why it's like my mantra on social media, which I'm on everywhere, every day, at Dr. J. Khan. But, second opinion. You're going to have a bypass, second opinion. I got texted a minute before we logged on about a patient in Ethiopia. And that was my advice. Get him on meds, get him home. He's visiting, get him back, second opinion. Same with stents, except if you're in a coronary carrying and trap. There's a lot of bad medicine. I hate to say it. There's a lot of unnecessary procedures. How do you find a good cardiologist? There's a website called plantritionproject.com. They have a site called Find a Doc. Now that's looking for a plant-based doc. You're not going to find many cardiologists. You'll find some more than ever. But that doesn't, that's one definition of good, somebody that knows nutrition. It's a very underserved area to find integrative cardiology because food is the key, but it's not everything. Sleep is the key. Fitness is the key. Nutritional assessments are the key. Vascular exams with these CAT scans. So anyways, yes, you can reach out to me through healcircle.org, as Rena said. I'm in my clinic in Detroit where we do telehealth all over the world, Kahn Center for Cardiac Longevity. And I will never stop taking new patients because they're so much fun to take apart and put together.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Joel. Everybody, don't leave yet because we still have Sharmila at the very end, another 5 minutes or so, and we are going to be doing a beautiful meditation session. So please stay. I see some of you logging off. No, this is not the end. We have a little more to share. But Dr. Joel, you're amazing. Thank you so much for spreading.
Thank you. Thank you for the honor of talking to this great company.
Absolutely. We didn't get to talk about COVID because we ran out of time. And again, maybe
Bring me back.
We'll be
Yeah,
back.
we can
Awesome.
definitely do that. If you're willing, Dr. Khan, if you're willing to spend a few more minutes with us, we can definitely schedule a follow-up for COVID.
Thank you.
And I'm now going to share my screen for the next session. So I'm going to share a little bit about freemeals.org. One of the things that I know a lot of you are very generous hearted, and I'm going to take just a couple of minutes of your time to tell you about this nonprofit, 100% volunteer run organization that is feeding people who are with COVID, who are seniors stuck at home, foster kids who have no money. The stories are frightening. So this organization has served 4,000 hot, nutritious meals purchased from local restaurants since March, just since March. We have 100 plus restaurants that have signed up. We have 70 plus volunteers, and we are now trying to raise $75,000 to feed 3,000 families because of the influx of families that are coming to us on a daily basis, just desperately looking for a free meal. If I was to share some of the stories, it would make you cry, which is not my goal on this session, but please go to freemeals.org and read the family stories. A senior couple starving down to 80 pounds, struggling, and they said, can you just send us a meal with omelets? It's just, the stories will just make you cry. The restaurants are struggling. And what we've been able to do is every cent we raise, we buy a meal from a restaurant. We have paid $25,000 to local restaurants to buy these nutritious meals. And we are looking for $5,000 ASAP to continue feeding next month because we ran out of money this month. So we have $5,000. Just a brief quote here. You can see some of the people that we've been helping. That's our volunteer team delivering meals. The way it works is that if you donate $25, that feeds a family of 4. So it's 2 adults, 2 children. We have name brands like Oasis and Lazy Dog and Blaze Pizza, Mountain Mike's Pizza. We also have Denny's and Bridges Golf Club, Corner Bakeries. So we have a lot of chains, Taco Bells. We even have the healthy meal, Chipotle. So we've partnered with these restaurants. If you donate $25, Workday matches that. If we get 25 of you to donate $100, we get the $5,000 that we're hoping to keep going for next month to feed these families. So that's my one request. It's just freemeals.org. You can put in Workday, and that way we can, Mamta can also help reach out to you if you have questions. The other thing that we're doing is, eating healthy, as Dr. Joel just shared, one of the critical cornerstones of health is eating healthy. But who's got time to cook? We are working harder than ever before. So one of the most important things you can do is actually order a healthy meal from a restaurant. We call them heal meals. These are plant-based meals. They are, low in crappy fat, high in rainbow-colored vegetables. These are from the local restaurants. You would call us. You'll order a heal meal for $25. We will deliver a meal to you, so you actually get a full-fledged meal. But then 30% of that comes to us as a donation. And that $25 is tax deductible for you. So you order a heal meal for $25, tax deductible. We then turn around and get 30% of that towards feeding other families. So if your birthday's coming up, if you want to donate in honor of your loved ones, we'll welcome your donation with open arms. We have a sponsorship program where you can select a family for 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months. So we have a lot of sponsors. Again, all this information is on freemeals.org. You can select a family to sponsor. So you can select, for example, a 15-year-old foster kid that's on their own, no money, locked up, and we deliver so they don't have to eat cereal milk. Or you can adopt a senior lady, or you can adopt someone with cancer. We are partnered with John Muir Hospital, Stanford Hospital, and other organizations like that, because there's so many sick people that are having issues accessing food as well. So again, I urge you to consider maybe sponsoring a family. 3 months comes to about $300. 12 months comes to, I think, about $1,300 or so. But just $25 will feed a family of 4 one time. And with Workday's corporate matching, you end up feeding 2 families. So that's how this works. If you have any questions, please post them, and I can give you any answers. So just bottom line, you can donate $100. We're just looking for 25 people to donate $100 each. That'll give us the $5,000 to feed families next month. And as I said, 100% of that goes towards buying meals from local restaurants to help keep them going as well. So those are the 3 things you can do to help. And it's freemeals.org. We are looking for volunteers as well. We are launching a fundraiser concert called Give Love with Grammy-nominated artists. Super exciting. It's going to be a free live streaming concert. If you are interested, join us as a volunteer, or we can send you some more information as well. And by the way, here's kind of the links again. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled program with Sharmila, Zen Breath. Let's mosey on over to Sharmila. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and let's pin Sharmila. Sharmila, welcome.
Hello.
Sharmila, are you on mute? Oh, there you are. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I wanted to conclude this session with a very powerful breathing technique. I know Dr. Khan mentioned a variety of really great ones, and this particular one is called box breathing or square breathing. And it's so powerful that it's being utilized by Navy SEALs, law enforcement, first responders, and athletes, people in high stress positions, because it quickly and effectively reduces stress. And in this current time that we're in with so many challenges, it's important that we all have access to such techniques. So we're going to try this together in a minute to end the session. Before we do, just a couple of quick tips. The first is sit with an erect spine to enhance your focus and breathing. The second is try to breathe through your nose if you can. And the third is you can just follow along to the best of your ability without straining. So we're going to actually be doing 4 counts for every step of this process. So we're going to inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold for 4. That's the technique, and I'll talk you through it. But if it helps to enhance the focus by visualizing a square. So you can inhale up the left side of the square, hold across the top of the square, exhale down the right side of the square, and hold across the bottom of the square. If you like, you can add that to your process. So we're going to start now. You can get into a comfortable position, and I invite you to close your eyes to enhance your focus and give your eyes a rest from the screen. And take a moment to release any tension in the body, allowing your body to relax, especially your face, shoulders, belly. And then tune into your breathing, into the natural movements of your belly as you breathe. The rise and fall of the belly as you inhale and exhale. And now we're going to start the technique. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Good. And now allow your breathing to return to normal. And then open your eyes.
Wow. That was so beautiful, Sharmila.
I hope you enjoyed.
It's the power of the breath, I think, is the biggest secret to health.
Yes, our breathing is the crucial link between our mind and body. So when we're stressed, it affects our breathing. We breathe shallow. So by purposefully and consciously working with the breath in a fashion like this, it enhances our physical and mental well-being in a variety of ways. So this is just a little trick that you can add in your day, and it just takes minutes, even 1 minute.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I did 5 startups, and as a CEO of a startup, it is the most high stress, putting you in the flight or fright mode experience. And I did it for years. And my 3rd startup is when I got smarter about it. And one of the things that I would do was before every meeting, I would have everyone do breathing. Now, box breathing is new, but I would say, close your eyes. I want everyone to deep breathe, hold, and deep breathe out. Even something simple, but breath, being mindful of breath. And you can literally, if you're in touch with yourself, you can watch your pressure coming down. You can watch yourself coming down and just feeling like you can deal with whatever's to come. And so, one of the things that I think all of you that are listening and watching, and when you feel yourself, like you said, going into a meeting, sort of stressed, there's little butterflies in your stomach, or there's kids running around and there's something burning in the kitchen, whatever that is, breathe and then start your Zoom meetings. I think this should become like mandatory. First 1 minute of every meeting starts with breath work. I think meetings would become so much more productive.
Yeah, there's so many different techniques to choose from. Box breathing's one that's being utilized in these high stress positions. And like I said, it takes 1 minute, and the start of the meeting's perfect because it enhances our focus, our concentration, productivity, and our health, and even things like detoxification, weight loss. I mean, it has a huge ROI.
It does. So, I want everyone to know how to reach you because you've got some wonderful videos, etc.
So at thewellnesstransformation.com and on my website, I have free mini meditations to try. And if you need further help in any capacity, please reach out to me.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again. And that's it for us. That's a wrap, folks. Thank you, Mamta. You are amazing for giving us this opportunity to come chat with all of your wonderful workers. And I'm going to hand it back to you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sharmila. First of all, that was so nice. And I feel already so relaxed and peaceful. So thank you so much. I think the rest of the day is going to go really good. And thank you, Rina, first of all, for bringing Dr. Khan in, giving us so much information. I know there's a lot of responses and questions, and the feedback has been just awesome. So thank you so much, Rina. And I know Dr. Khan, his busy schedule, he's logged off, but I just wanted to say that I have posted the Giving and Doing link for Workday for freemeals.org. So please, this is a great cause. 100% of your donations go to feeding these needy families at COVID time. So please consider donating. And I will also share the all of the resources and recordings. If you have any questions, please feel to reach out to me. or any of the DOSI leads, or, you know, Rena is also rena@healcircle.org. So please reach out to her. And based on the feedback, we will definitely talk about having a second follow-up, and, you know, and then we'll let all of you know when can we do that. But thank you, Sonam. Thank you, Sharmila. You guys were like our, you know, little surprises, you know, set the tone right for the meeting and then ended it with the right tone. So thank you, Rena, for giving so much thought on making this such a powerful webinar. You're
Thank
muted.
you. Thank you so much. And it's rena@freemeals.org, or Rena Jadab. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. Thank you so much again. Have a great
Thank you,
day.
everyone. Bye.